What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Halftime Snacks podcast. This show features short interviews that you can listen during the halftime of your favorite sports events. Every Tuesday, I host fun conversations with talented people in the sports industry where we'll learn from their stories, knowledge, and experiences. So go grab your favorite snack and come snack with us. Are you ready? Let's go! Today's episode of the Halftime Snacks features a guest with a unique intersection of interests. Here's why. Here's a former collegiate kicker and punter, architect, designer, and data analytics manager. Our guest is basically an expert in design, performance, and technology. He is the CEO and founder of BeONE Sports, a platform that uses AI to help young athletes maximize their performance, gain exposure for their talents, and get advanced training on demand. I can't wait for this conversation with my fellow friend all the way from Texas in the United States, Scott Deans.
Hey, Ronan. Thanks. Finally get together.
Yeah, finally, Scott. How are you? How are you feeling today?
Doing well. I'm feeling energized. It's beautiful outside. Texas, if you don't know, doesn't get cold usually, but we're in the nice 60s, so that's cold for us.
That's great. That's great. I've never been to Texas. Hope I make it one day. I'm a Colts fan, so I know that the Houston Texans are one of the biggest rivals of us. But I hope I come one day, visit you. We'll go to a Texans game and we'll have some fun with some snacks during halftime. Man, you were a professional player, football player, punter, kicker. What was one song as an icebreaker? Almost. As an icebreaker, I'm curious. What was one song that you played before games that pumped you up?
Oh, hands down, not only my favorite songs, but my favorite movies, Rocky. And you could pick any of the Rocky movies, and I would just be able to pull a song or a clip or vocabulary or whatever came out of Rocky.
Yeah,
Sure.
Rocky is quite a motivational movie and song. Eye of the Tiger, man, one of the top songs that come to mind. Great song, and I'm sure it helped you to win some games, kick some footballs, and yeah, help your team out. But for those that maybe don't know you, Scott, or those that maybe don't know exactly what you've been through or where you've been, how about you first maybe tell us your story, how you became a almost pro football player, athlete. How did all happen? You can go back as far as you want, but tell us exactly how you became an
Sure.
athlete, and then how that prepared you to the next step.
Yeah, absolutely. No, happy to share my story. It's a little bit interesting, I think, and I have to actually start from the beginning because I was born and raised on a boat in San Francisco Bay. I spent the first 18 years of my life on a small 36-foot trawler, and I think the reason I bring that up is when you're an only child out kind of in a unique setting, right, living on a boat, creativity and innovation became a necessity. It was I was often alone or running around trying to figure out how to entertain myself, and I just had to get creative and innovative really at a young age. And I think once I started introducing myself to sports, that was the second element. Sports became just a critical piece of my life at a very young age. Thanks to my mom for driving me around from, ice hockey to martial arts to football to baseball. I mean, all of these things kind of happening throughout my life. And, I ultimately settled on football because in high school I was a quarterback and a kicker and a punter. And it was then that I started really finding a love for the game, an affinity with sports, and building again my experience with camaraderie and what it means to be on a team and all those things. And subsequently, in my junior year, I broke my elbow while I was pitching, So my quarterback career ended. Needless to say, I became a kicker and a punter only, and was fortunate enough to get a scholarship to Portland State. Portland State University, I competed every day to get on the field. And, that was sort of the beginning of 20 years later, the BeONE Sports forming. So, and where I say that is, competition these days is so tight, right? So here I was at Portland State competing to win. And subsequently after those years, and I look back on my sports career throughout the whole early stage of my life, there was nothing but play in the NFL. That was my goal. That was my mission. I was going to play in the NFL. So convinced I was going to play in the NFL some way, somehow. And my college years ended, got an agent, and got fortunate enough to try out with Mr. Dwayne Board, or Coach Dwayne Board, for the 49ers, and didn't make it. Didn't make the team. So, I was stuck at this fork in my life and career and everything, and chose to actually hang up the cleats and finish school as an architect. And so I finished architecture school and design school, which you sort of thrust me into my decade first career, which was all about design and architecture. And what I learned in that decade was really all about two really important things: communication and the power of design. And I say communication because, how we communicate as humans, or how we interact with technology or ideas, it really doesn't matter if you can't communicate it. And that can be communicated graphically, or, it can be interpretive, it can be delivered through a beautiful drawing or a beautiful song, all these things. And it was kind of that design experience that helped me learn those skills. And then interestingly, my career changed again. Career totally went from design and architecture to the energy industry. And it's in the next decade that I really learned what it means to understand performance, understand technology, and performance by way of what matters to achieving some objective. Whether it's a business trying to create the most profit possible, or it's a young company trying to create a brand. This idea around performance and how you measure performance, or how you dictate or control the validity of a skill set or a capability level. This is what I learned kind of in this last decade. And, I say all of that because those are really four big elements which are converging now into BeONE Sports. Love of the game, number one, passion for sports and athletics, design, and making truly a experientially different moment, let's say, for athletes and coaches and parents. The importance of design, and then what performance can do for the kids and parents and coaches around the world. All of those things converging now into the company, and that's what's really exciting.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. And but I'm wondering, when exactly, what was the first moment where you thought BeONE as an idea, or maybe just as a thought that you had, that you realize, oh, this could probably work better, or there will be an interesting opportunity in this area. What was the moment exactly? Can you remember? Maybe you don't, but the first moment when you realize there's this opportunity for BeONE.
Yeah, it's a good question. And to be honest, it's been pretty recent. It was recently that all of this sort of aha moment came about. And it was while I was in my MBA curriculum at Rice, because what we were learning is, an idea is great, but if it doesn't mean something to you as a founder, then what are you doing? How do you want to spend your life? How do you, when you get out of bed, what drives you, and what, what great things can you bring to the world and people that are you're going to experience this journey with. And that's when it clicked for me. I said, what are the most important things to me? And it's always been about, you know, helping kids achieve their greatest while at the same time demonstrating healthy and energetic actions. And for me, that's sports. And now the neat thing about this is the enablers to that are things like performance, things like design, and things like technology. And that's why I'm trying to kind of converge all these things into something completely differential.
Yeah, it feels like you've been collecting the Legos throughout the last 2 decades, with all your experiences and the things that you've learned and the things that you've seen and the types of people that you've met for sure and the conversations that you've had. You've been collecting the Legos and getting like a very good sense of understanding and grasping what people think, what needs are out there, what kinds of problems can technology solve, how can we measure performance, how can we measure things with data, and then like kind of like from a reflection point, meaning that once you sat down probably with yourself with a couple of good questions in your mind, you came up with this awesome idea for BeONE. Now I'm wondering how exactly you went from idea to knowing how specifically the product that you were going to build was going to be able to solve all the things that you wanted to solve. Like, I wonder how exactly you transitioned from idea to product.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have to say that the first steps, and a lot of entrepreneurs probably feel this too, is just go research and find out who your customers and what they need and what problems you're trying to solve. So the customer discovery process was really huge for us. We wanted to, not only test our idea, but really go out and listen to what's driving the need for this technology or the need for this academy, let's say. And in doing that, we found some really insightful things. One, that competition exists and it only gets more and more intense as you rise in the ranks or rise in the levels of athletics. And so that was one really important sort of validation of what we were searching for. I think another really great and powerful insight was that it's not just about the athletes and the coaches. There are parents out there competing every day to win, and the commitment that exists with the parent and athlete and coach relationship is amazing. Now, within that, there are some athletes that don't have that privilege, right? So I think that's something that we're always trying to be aware of, that there's this triangle of parents, coaches, and athletes that we want to build that collaboration, build that strength as a network. And where there's one thing missing, maybe as a company we can help promote that, or we can help generate the connection so that athletes, parents, and coaches can compete at the highest level possible.
Wow, it sounds like that triangle is really probably the formula for what non-professional sports look like. And I'm very curious, like the network of coaches and the network of parents is as important for you guys as the number of athletes that you serve, or
Yeah.
or how exactly are you thinking about, like, if it would be a priority level, or just an order of who you care about the most, or not who you care about the
Sure.
most, but who do you want to be closest to?
Yeah.
Maybe it's probably the athletes, but then if you would have to choose coaches or parents, what would you choose?
Interestingly, it depends. It depends on the individual relationship actually that we come across, because every human is different, every relationship is different, and that's one thing that we want to focus on, is the individuality of each experience, of each athlete, of each parent, of each coach. And so to prioritize them, they're all equal, they're all equivalent, and we're going to just be able to work with them in whatever capacity is maybe lacking, or whatever capacity is available. We can support. Um, yeah, but when when you get into the kind of strict user space, right? Athletes and coaches will probably be the direct users of the product and service, right? And so we have to fully understand them. Now, as you mentioned, non-professional athletes, the parents are going to be really important. I mean, they're essentially the decision makers, right? For young athletes, especially in the high school ages, we want to build relationships with parents because that's really important to us.
Yeah, the decision makers. You can't pull an athlete if the parent is not does not agree. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
um,
Yeah, and in the world in the world of NIL and how athletes are then progressing right into the NCAA, or how young athletes are potentially being put in a position to negotiate their future revenue streams, right? This is a paradigm shift in young athletes world. And like I mentioned, where some athletes don't have the privilege of like direct support from either leaders or coaches or parents, then there's a gap there. And we want to build our capability to support that if it's needed.
interesting. And how exactly are you thinking about monetization? Maybe we're too early to talk about that. Maybe it's the last thing in your to-do list as of now, because
Yeah.
you have the product launch up coming up, and the platform's going to be released, and the website, and a video and everything, and on the marketing
Mm-hmm.
side probably is more your focus now. But I'm wondering if you've already sat down and made the reflection on how exactly do you want to make this a business.
Yeah, sure. No, it's the question that we all have to come to at some point. But what I would say is that we have a variety of choices. There are a few alternatives that we've been discussing and sort of designing on, and I think the beauty in this is that it likely could work in a variety of ways, and we're still trying to figure out what the best one is. What I can say is that we're a data-driven company. We're a passion-driven company. So when you combine data with passion, it's almost like you can't lose. I mean, it's you're making decisions, and you're doing things not only for the company but for your people, your consumers. And in that sense, it's almost not about the money. And maybe that's not the greatest thing for a founder to say, but I'm less interested in making a ton of money than I am seeing a kid get a scholarship, or seeing an athlete improve beyond his or her thought process, or even thought they could ever get to this point. I think for me, that's true value. Um, Now, in terms of like monetization, we will have to make decisions, and I think we'll see that in the coming months of operations, and we'll make a decision that's based basically on our customers and the company.
You talked a little bit about NIL, name, image, and likeness, and how it is really changing. This is less than a year update since they allowed young athletes to monetize their brands. You talked a little bit about this, and I just want to double tap on that because I think that it could really be tied into what you think is the future of young athletes, especially, as we mentioned, non-pro and high school athletes. What does that look in the future? How exactly do you think that exists? Let's talk about the US, because the world is probably too
Mhm.
complicated to be accurate on a prediction or just a vision. But on your mind, how does the market of young athletes look like in the future, and how exactly is BeONE
Yeah.
trying to tie those knots up for the future of it, and be there for all these athletes, for those needs that you think will happen in the future?
Yeah. No, it's a great question. It's one that I bet coaches and athletes and parents around the world are trying to understand as we speak. I think for me, NIL is got two really big things that we need to focus on. One is this has clearly brought in the value of individuality in sports. But with that, there's a risk of losing the team concept. And I think for me, one thing that I've thought about is, how can an individual athlete build their brand and build their image in a way that's conducive with their kind of their values, or the way that they want to be perceived in the market, or across the world. And how can you give athletes the skills or the capability to use the tools to craft that message perfectly? And I think what it comes down to is, especially in the high school days and the high school market, is it's all about decision making. And if we can help athletes understand how decisions today can ultimately affect your NIL, your image, your brand in the future, then what better decisions can we help athletes make today? And how are we going to do that? So what kind of humans am I going to bring to the table that help athletes make better decisions on the field, and maybe more importantly, off the field? So that's one really important thing. And so when I think about kind of individuality and the kind of free agency sort of aspect of young athletes, building your brand and building your messaging is a full-time job. And I know for me as a high school kid, I probably could have made a lot better decisions. And having that support structure around me, or in today's world, building a support structure, I think, is important. So I think that's one aspect of it. The other thing that we're going to do, which is something that we're playing around, and it gets back to this kind of creativity and innovation space. At our academies, we're not just going to train physical strength and speed. We're going to build on mental and emotional stability. We're going to build on, what it means to have business acumen, learn what it means to understand negotiations or endorsing your brand as a human, and when you combine the physical, getting faster, getting stronger, getting consistent, at the same time with mental and emotional stability, that could really make an interesting experience. And we're hoping that, and we're thinking that in doing all of that, athletes are going to be in a better position when the time comes, whether it's some big company looking for an endorsement, or you're going to show up on a podcast, or you're going to show up on screen somewhere. Your message and your brand are consistent. And what tools can we help provide these athletes?
Yeah, and I think that it goes even beyond sports. I feel like in the new era of the internet, and how most of the things live online, and everyone has his own or her own online digital profile that expresses what this person maybe stands for, or is interested in, or likes, or whatever. I feel like learning all of those things, as you mentioned, like how the online and the offline tie together, how your actions today can influence your future, and all the things that you like currently do, how exactly that ties up to who you are and who you become, and the type of brand that you're building. I think it goes beyond sports, and it's a lesson really for everyone to learn how to build a new life, or a life in the new world. And so what I'm liking about what you're mentioning, tying it up, everything together with, mental health and emotional health, and learning how to deal with specific situations, is that it's not really related to sports. It's just that BeONE is really focusing on young athletes that probably, are either focused on their sport, or devoting their life 24/7 to to improving their skills and everything, and sometimes they don't have access to the number of resources that others do, or to the trainings that the best trainings around that others do. You're really providing that tool to those people to come up with this way of living in the new world, as I was just mentioning.
Yeah.
And I loved it, and I feel like that is also part of what your experience as a designer and as an architect taught you about, building, the whole experience, and providing the users with, tools that may not be like obvious, maybe more subtle, but they're actually there to help
Yep.
them not improve really their sport, but improve their life. So it's more of like
Yeah.
do A to improve B, but you improve everything in between. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, I think, and the coolest thing about all this is there's a direct translation to performing in the moment, right? With your mental and emotional stability. Because, as a field goal kicker, and you're stepping out in front of 100,000 to hit a game winner, and you're down by 2, it is not physical at that point. It is nothing but mental and emotional. And just like any other sport where you're hitting a free throw to win the game, or you're in the moment, you've probably trained your body and your anatomy to such a level that it's just going to do it. But it's your mind actually that really sets apart the ones that perform in the clutch, and and those that hiccup or have a a result that is unfavorable. Now, is it perfect? No. I mean, it's just a constant journey to build the kind of physical, mental, and emotional triangle. But that's kind of one idea we're after is we believe that actual on the field performance has a direct translation or a direct relationship with off the field and mental and emotional stability.
Big supporter of that. What is exactly the roadmap or the plan that you have? I know that you guys are
Yep.
launching soon, so if you want to talk about that, that's
Yeah.
now's the moment. And but what happens next, and how are you thinking about scaling this?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I mentioned, technology and data is really at the heart of the company. And so we're really excited. We're actually developing our technology and MVP in collaboration with Rice University. So that's ongoing now. We're going to be kind of building the whole launch, and the company is actually going to launch here soon. So um, hopefully this month, actually. BeONE Sports is gonna show up, and I think the big thing that we're hoping uh, to achieve is just start building the relationships with our consumer base, with our coaches, and with our parents, because we believe that at the heart of success is relationship building. It's really about people. You can have the greatest technology in the world, but if you don't know what to do with it, and you don't have an understanding of who you're doing it for, then it really doesn't matter. And so we're really focused on our technology development plan. We're really focused on building relationships and our marketing and branding. And then lastly, we're going to have hopefully an interesting and compelling launch choreography. No better word than choreography to this. So, the other thing I would mention is we sort of pride ourselves on collaboration and partnership. So there are a lot of fantastic things going on in this market and in the industry at large. So, I mean, sports tech is growing and expanding, and it's fantastic. It's fantastic for the entrepreneurs, and fantastic for the industry and the market. But more importantly, it's fantastic for the athletes, the coaches, and the parents. And that's what's super exciting. So anywhere that we can build those connections, we're all in.
Well, Scott, you know that anything that we can do to help, we're here as the Halftime Snacks and Sports Tech Biz, and me, of course. I hope you trust me when the times comes. And man, it's been fun. I can't leave without asking you a more personal question, Scott.
Yeah.
Maybe I wanna ask you, because you were in those moments, what is the hardest moment, at least mentally, for a punter or kicker? Is it that moment under pressure that you mentioned when you're down two and you know everyone relies on you? And if that is the moment, can you share with us maybe that moment that has been in your life for you as a kicker, as a punter, or your
Yeah.
quarterback you were also before you broke your elbow? What was the toughest moment for you in your life as a sports athlete, as almost pro?
Yep. I know it well because it's one that I've learned from greatly. And it was actually just a terrible failure field goal kick. I think we were playing Northridge, Cal Cal State Northridge or something, and I remember the field, the grass was a little bit longer than I would have liked, and the kickers out there would know you kind of want to see the bottom of the ball because I don't know why, mentally it helps you. um, and I remember when I was had taken my steps, I was in position, and the funniest things started happening in my calf muscles. They just started tingling and almost out of control. And I was in my brain going, what is going on with my body? And I completely forgot like everything that I was trained to do. And the ball was snapped and I ran up and kicked it, and it literally bounced off the back of my center's head. And it bounced so high that, I mean, people ran under it like they were going to catch, a punt or something. And I was just sitting there going, oh my gosh, what just happened? And the reason I remember this one is it goes back to that physiological moment when it's not about like how you control your body, but if you can sort of calm your mind, then your muscles and your tendons and your blood flow and all of those things are at calm at the clutch moment. And then it's just about muscle memory. It's just about execution, and that's a really neat thing. And so that's lived with me for quite a while. The fun thing though is I still kick. I still go out and I probably kicked 250 balls in the past month. And so I constantly sort of search for that moment again, see if it'll happen, but it hasn't ever been in that situation. So it's been interesting.
Thank you very much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. If you enjoy learning about the business and technology behind sports, make sure you subscribe to the Sports Tech Biz newsletter. I'll leave the link in the show notes. See you all next week. Bye bye.